I want to welcome everybody to our Utah Board of Water Resources Board briefing and action meeting starting at 8:30 promptly. It's our first one, so we've got Acting Director Joel Ferry here. Joel Williams, sorry.
We can call him Joel Ferry though too.
Joel Williams. And so as I muddle through this, Joel and I are going to try and make it legal and appropriate. Yes. First thing we'll do, if we could, is have we got Spencer online?
He's online, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll do introductions of the board. Spencer, why don't you start?
Spencer, can you start with introductions?
Yes, Spencer Jones, the Lower Colorado River.
Thank you. Brian?
Brian Steed, Great Salt Lake Interests.
William Merkley with the Green River District.
Dana Van Horn with the Upper Colorado.
Juliette Tennant representing Salt Lake and Tooele, and just to apologize in advance, I will need to leave before action is taken, so I apologize, but glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Mike Davis, Provo River Drainage. And then Joel, if you want to.
Joel Williams, Acting Director for Water Resources.
Do you want to introduce any staff here, please?
I'd love to. So we in the room here, we have Ethan Stayner, Sarah Schechter, Shalane DiBernardi, Ani Baynard, Shannon Clow. We got Jessica Chen, Ben Marett, Todd Stoneley, Brad Caldwell. Am I missing anybody else? And then Marisa Egbert is also here, and then helping us to run the meeting today is Carmen McDonald and maybe Seth or Paul, but probably I know Carmen for sure.
Okay, thank you, Joel. So, need to remember that we've somewhat changed the format. I think we're aware of that since we're here. So we'll be having staff presentations of projects, and the staff and applicants will have opportunity to present to us this morning. And then the board will hear any public comments that we may have, and then any questions that the board may have on the projects. The actions will happen later in the meeting. But to facilitate that, I know we had discussed, or it was discussed earlier, that maybe the applicants didn't need to stick around because we just have we have one of our board members here. Real quick, go ahead and introduce yourself. And
thank you. Dale Buxton from the Bay River District. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Dale. Glad to have you here. And so, as I talked with Shalane, I thought it was probably best that the applicants stick around until the actions are taken, the board actions, just in case anybody on the board has a question. I would hate to see anything delayed because we had a question and there wasn't somebody here to answer the question. So I hope that was okay. I just felt it was important that we're able as a board to have any questions answered that may be needed before any actions taken. So, is that clear? Any questions on that? Okay, great. I will note that we do have a quorum here with Spencer online. So we'll start with discussion of board projects. And our first project for discussion is RE 502 Farm Creek Irrigation Company in Duchesne. Brad is going to present on that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the board. Can you see the presentation? I don't see it up there, so I'm just wondering.
We don't have it up yet.
And then while that's getting set up, I'll announce some of the online guests from Farm Creek. We should have Hal Giles President, Irvin Rhodes, Director, Eric Major from Jones and DeMille, and Bo Bateman from Jones and DeMille.
Good morning.
Did I miss anybody in your room there?
It's also Eric Rube with Jones and DeMille sitting in as well. Thank you.
I guess I could start with my oral presentation and then show slides later, if that's okay.
You bet. Go ahead.
Okay.
We're having just a few technical issues for those online. We'll be hopefully up and going here in just a second.
I was gonna say, I should step away from the.
You would never ask me to fix this, I'll tell you that.
This is my job at the commission
Yeah,
meetings, so
yeah.
I do this, not as near as technical, we don't have this kind of money.
Sometimes the, like, not so technical is easier to troubleshoot.
I think the issue is it slept in, just didn't get enough sleep. Fog was bad this morning, so
Something's going on. It's good though, because once they fix it for this one, at least it'll work for the others.
Perfect. Let's try that again. Can you see it now?
no.
It's not on our screens up. Oh, something.
Oh, it's,
Oh, there's something
Okay.
up there. There we
we
go.
have it. Touchdown.
All right. So, RE 502 Farm Creek Irrigation Company. This project is located between Tabiona and Hanna, about 25 miles northwest of Duchesne. The applicant is seeking funding to enclose approximately 3 miles of open earthen canal with a 42-inch HDPE pipeline. And let me pull up the map there so you can see. This project will also remove an existing settling pond connecting the open canal and existing pipe, and that's shown by the green diamond on the map. It'll also install a new diversion structure and sediment basin beginning at the top of the map shown by the teal diamond. They'll also install flow measurement and telemetry devices in each turnout, giving meter data. Some issues the company has been facing is that the existing open canal currently experiences conveyance losses from seepage and evaporation. Shareholders also rely on pumping water directly from the canal to irrigate their fields. In addition, the canal requires ongoing maintenance, including routine debris removal and repairs. Some benefits of the cost is they will estimate about reducing $4,500 in O&M costs annually. This project also incentivizes users to convert from flood to pressurized irrigation. It'll give a more consistent deliveries and longer effective irrigation season. They estimate to save approximately 1,850 acre-feet of water per year, and they will be utilizing those savings within the service boundary. It'll also increase potential for crop quality and yield, and I should note that users do plan to convert about 400 acres of pasture and grass hay to alfalfa. There isn't any expected depletion from the Duchesne River, but there is a suspected depletion of groundwater. Some other funding programs are the Water Smart grant from the Bureau of Reclamation, and that is through the Water and Energy Efficiency Grant Program. The UDAF grant, which is from the Agricultural Water Optimization Program, and those are both awarded. Following board guidelines, we can recommend a 0% interest loan over 20 years because the project is being funded under $1 million from the C&D fund. So let me show you a few pictures. There is the existing settling pond that will be removed and remediated. I went when it was a little cold, so there's no seepage there. There's the earthen canal. And here's the diversion structure where the new sediment basin and sluice gate will go. So, that being said, staff recommends the board authorize 8.7% of the project cost up to $435,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 20 years with annual payments of approximately $21,750. And that is staff's report.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to present anything at this time?
No. Yeah, we're just grateful to have the project heard today, and thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the applicant? Okay.
Sounds
like I have just a little bit of a delay. Okay, board members, any questions? Yes.
Thank you. More of a general question, and Brad, I think it's just because maybe it's early, maybe it's 2026, and I forgot everything that happened before. What is the rate that we normally do in this fund if it's over $1 million?
I believe it's around 3%. Is that correct, Shalene?
Yes, this is the revolving fund? Not the C&D fund. It's always.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Can you restate that into the mic?
It's always zero in a revolving construction.
I think that's okay. The C and I'm getting funds confused.
I think I might have said C&D fund as well. I messed that up.
It is early.
we
Thank you. It's not that early actually, but just today it is. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, this issue will be again presented for action a little later in the meeting. Thank you, Brad. All right, the next item on the agenda, RE 503, Elberta Water Company. Ethan? Do you want to introduce who we have?
And along with Alberta Water Company online, we hopefully have Bill Ford, President, Merrill West, Secretary, Wade Garner, as well as Jesse Ralphs, Parker Stevens, and then in person, do we have? There he is. I was like looking for in the audience. We have
You're green. I would say you blend in.
Justin Atkinson from Sunrise Engineering.
Thanks.
Good to see
Will
you.
you ask if they're online? They had a hard time getting on, and I'm not sure which.
Yeah. If you're online, are you able to let us know?
Yeah, we're on.
Did I miss
This is
anybody
Bill
that's
Ford.
with you?
They're not hearing us. Marissa, this is Bill Ford, Merrill West, and Wade Garner online.
Thank
on the
you.
phone.
Perfect.
Thank you for being with us, all of you. Ethan, go ahead.
Cool. Thank you. Looks like we got everybody. Yeah, Alberta Water Company. This is one. Excuse me. Go. Look at the map here. So this is one where we're about we're in Alberta, so we're about 10 miles west of Santaquin and 30 miles south of Saratoga Springs, and so it's right where Highway 68 and Highway 6 meet. So if you wanted to get your steps in, you could walk out to Redwood Road and in a few days walk all the way down and be at this project. But so yeah, that's where we're looking. So in Alberta, Marisa and I had a chance a few weeks ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, to run down there.
So you did get your steps then?
Yeah, we did get our actually we did. We were mostly in the truck, thankfully, on this particular visit. But yeah, and we went down and saw the project, and Bill and Merrill and Wade were very gracious to have us and sit down with us in Bill's office, and then take us out to the well site out there, the pump house for one of the wells, and so this is a well project. This is drinking water. The water company supplies drinking water to 68 residential connections and 5 institutional connections. Yeah, and so the system has about 17 miles of pipe, 2 tanks that are combined are over 200,000 gallons, and then there are 3 wells, which are the ones in question. And do I have the cursor here? Oh, maybe it's not showing up there. Well, in the triangle is the 2 wells that have been causing issues, and then the square is well 3. So the triangle is the location for wells 1 and 2. They are shallower wells. Back in, I believe it was 2013, they had issues with high levels of arsenic, and so they worked with the Division of Drinking Water to get well 3 in place, which is a deeper well that doesn't have some of those arsenic issues, and then they could blend wells 1 and 2 with the water from well 3 and be under that allowable limit that the Division of Drinking Water, I don't know if regulate is the right word, but that they oversee. And so a couple years ago, 2023, they started having issues with wells 1 and 2 that greatly lowered the production. They had some, they have to run well 1 on really low power, or else it's subject to cavitation. It only produces about 25 gallons per minute. well 2, that can only run for short periods of time because there's sand in there that has begun to damage some of the pumps. And in the past couple of years, they've spent about $100,000 on different treatments and replacing a pump, trying to get them up to speed. But we've come to the point where we have this proposed project that Sunrise Engineering is helping them with, and so what the proposed project is to kind of bump up the production in well 3 to kind of offset the loss of production in 1 and 2. And so there's going to be a new pump motor, a new column pipe that's a little bigger, and new cables for well 3 that will hopefully bump it up from 100 gallons per minute to 150 gallons per minute. And then they're also planning to install a new pump on well 2 and purchase a spare pump for well 1 that they can kind of use those in backup emergency situations, and so that they can rely more on the more positive, better producing well 3. So some of the benefits, the decreased operation and maintenance costs, especially over the last couple years, increased well capacity and redundancy in the system. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of that. This is a pretty basic cost sharing. The costs for well 3, they're hoping to do for about $50,000, and for wells 1 and 2 about $14,000. And then when you factor in all the other components of the cost, it could be as much as $115,000. And so we're there before you today to ask for the maximum 85% cost share we can do. This is revolving construction fund money, so 85% is the max cost share, and so that would be $98,000 from the board, and then they'd be responsible for $17,000. And so, yeah, I'll get into the staff recommendation. The staff recommends the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $98,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $6,500. So that's staff's report. Any questions?
Thank you, Ethan. Any questions for Ethan on this? Just go ahead, Dale.
Sure. Ethan, just 2 probably easy questions.
Yeah.
It mentions institutional users. It sounds like it's mostly a rural area with residential users, but institutional connections, is that businesses, farms? What? I'm just trying to get a sense of what that would be.
I'm not sure.
It's like Church Park or something. Maybe Bill can answer that.
Yeah, Bill, would you have an answer for
Sure. Yeah, this is Bill Ford. We're not anticipating any business out. It's all farmland. It's all farm ground. The institutions that we've got in there are church houses and one large, just a dairy facility, a milking facility that uses the water. But, and we don't anticipate any residential because we don't have any water. You know, we can't, in order for Utah County to approve a building permit here, they have to have a certificate from us. Our water company is just a nonprofit. We don't have any paid employees. It's all volunteer. And we issue a certificate for the water, and then you can hook onto the system. And we haven't issued any of those for lots of years because we just don't have enough water to do it. So we don't really anticipate any growth, to be honest with you. It's just all basically ag, the people that live here that work in ag, and then we have stock water in the winter when they move some of the stock in for the winter. But that's all we have.
I guess just one follow-up to that then, in terms of the added debt service that's going to be required, is that going to increase your water rates, or is that going to be handled within the existing structure?
We have not increased our water rate since 2013 when we initially put in the third well for dilution into the arsenic dilution. We are anticipating, we held a stockholders meeting in March, and we are going to increase the rates in March enough to offset the cost of this. That is in progress now. In fact, the notice of the meetings will go out with the water bills this month and the month of February for the March meeting.
I guess just to finish that thought, then that's not going to be a onerous burden for anybody. Sounds like it's going to be a reasonable increase.
No, the increase is, right now our water bills are $60 per month, and that issues at 12,000 gallons per connection. If you go over that, we charge 65 cents per thousand if you go over the 12,000 mark. And so the water bills aren't excessive now, and we're anticipating increasing them about 20 to 25%, which should not cause any problems for anybody. Basically $10 a month, $10 or $15 a month more.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
Yes, William.
Mr. Chair, I just had a general question, and I'm certainly not opposed to our participation in this project. What guidance do we have as far as project of this nature and the relationship we have with the Division of Drinking Water? And is this more appropriate for them, or is it more appropriate for us, or is it just, I just would like some clarification.
Since I don't have that answer, I will go to the authorities. Marisa?
Yeah, go ahead.
They came to us, so, and as of right now, we still are doing drinking water projects. I don't know what that's going to mean later. And they're needing to get moving on this pretty quick, so, yeah.
Okay.
I might.
Would the applicant like to present
I
some
was just
things?
going to add that drinking water right now has a moratorium on applications too, and so they're not accepting any. So we approached them, and that's what they indicated to us, is that it would be July before we could apply, and that was just too long. And we thought this was a good fit for this type of project as well.
Thanks.
Would the applicant like to present anything else to us at this time?
No. This is Bill Ford again. During the winter months, we get by with not very much production. We can get by with these wells at 50% of what they're pumping. But come summer, because as soon as it gets warm, then so basically this increase, or this project is for peak demand. We just be able to cover everybody when we get increase in weather. So it gets warm. So that's the process. And the other thing is that we want to make sure that we bring up is unless we can get this additional water, we're going to be close on our fire suppression and with our storage holding capacity. So that's the two reasons why we need it.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions? I do have a question. This project is in my area. I wasn't able to go out and view the project, but as I was reading through some of the information, and I'm trying to remember because I don't have it here, but I thought it said something about the fact that this well had something to do with the LDS Church. Does the water company own this well? I'm assuming they own the water rights because that's what they're using for the town. But do they own the well?
I believe
This is Bill Ford. We have a 30-year contract which was initiated in 2013 for 100 acre feet of water out of that well. We borrowed the money from the Division of Drinking Water to put this well in 2013. And the church owns the ground, and we are just buying the water from them on a 30-year contract, a 100 acre foot, 30-year contract, which we're into about 13. We got 18 years left on that 30-year contract.
Okay, so,
Right now, at the present time, we have been using per year about 40 to 45 acre feet per year of the purchased water. And who owns that well is the Duchesne Valley Local District is who owns it. But for general information, that belongs to the church.
okay. So my question to staff is, don't we normally hold water rights or something, or maybe we don't on municipal? How would we on this, where they just have a contract of purchase and don't own the well? How does that work for us?
I mean, you guys have water rights, right? Or did I misunderstand that?
No, we have the water rights. We have the water rights.
Okay.
We're not using anywhere near our water rights. We've got enough water rights to go around there for sure. But we don't, and the other issue that we might want to bring up is the Division of Drinking Water. I don't know where they fit in, because we do have a loan with them at the current time.
Okay. Is the other loan with drinking water, does that muddy the water for us, so to speak?
I don't think so. To my knowledge, drinking water does not do purchase agreements like this board does. Everything they do is bonds, regardless of who they provide funds to. So, yeah, this I don't think there's any sort of conflict. And even if there were some sort of sharing required, this board has done that before with other state boards, and I think we could work it out. So, but yes, in this instance, they do own water rights that they have,
okay.
They supplied on their application and can be transferred to the board.
That was my confusion, is that
Yeah.
whether they actually owned the rights or were leasing the rights.
And it is a little different where it's a domestic water company. We haven't done one of these drinking water projects for a while, such a small drinking water project. But yes, I think in this instance, it fits perfectly in our revolving construction fund. And while things may change with the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan in the future, this, for the time being, this is a good fit for this board.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, William.
Just a quick question. Is this area intended to be served by the new development that Central Utah Water Conservancy District is putting in, where all the planned pipelines?
I didn't think it went that far west, the current planned project, but I've been out of that
I was just
for
curious.
a couple years, so I don't know for sure. Sorry. Okay. I know it went that direction, and I think to Goshen and over that way.
But maybe not that far to the
Maybe
west.
that
then.
far, not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Okay, this project is in my area. Is there someone who would be willing to present? Thank you, Dana. Okay, thank you. Thank you, applicants, and Ethan.
Thank you.
Next project is RE 475, Hyrum Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company. Ethan's doing this one. Joel, do we have any, who do we have that's representing the applicant?
Okay, it looks like we, for Hyrum, hopefully Brandon Parker, President, Floyd Burnett, Secretary, and Chad Brown with France and Civil. Are you there?
And they should all be joining from France and Civil office. I think I see them there.
Yeah, we're all here.
Great.
Thank you for being here. Welcome. Ethan, go ahead and present.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, Hyrum Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company. This was one of Russell Hadley's projects that I picked up when he retired. And so well, this is kind of east of Hyrum, south of Nibley, up there in Cache County. And I've been working with these guys over the last month to make sure the funding requirements have been met, and we've worked through getting the documents we need, and so they've met those funding requirements. And I actually looked it up, and it was back on December 15th, 2023, when Russell had the investigation meeting with him, and I know because he invited me and Brad there. So so I have seen this project, even though it has been a little while, even though it wasn't mine. But so I'll try to, since it's been a while, this was authorized in January of 2024. Since it's been a little while, I'll try to share a couple aspects of the project, even though this is a committal, so we can get maybe a reminder for those who weren't on the board yet. But the company has about 88 shareholders, and their system, they divert off the Blacksmith Fork, the tributary to the Logan River, and this is for their irrigation system. And there's a lot of unlined canal. It diverts into some unlined canal, and then they have a section of pipe, and then it goes again into some unlined canal. There's some sections of the canal that have some serious seepage issues and some serious issues of plant growth and tree growth that is kind of using up their part of their water right, and so it's kind of an inefficient delivery for their irrigation system right now. In addition to that, their diversion structure off the Blacksmith Fork has been deteriorating. One of the other concerns, there's safety concerns associated with the open canal. It's a rural area, but there's still some homes near the open canal, and particularly there's a section along a hillside where if something, an earthquake or whatever, something were to happen, there could be a flood risk issue or an issue with having that open canal above some of the homes and property in the area. And so that's one of the big concerns is the safety for having an open canal in some of these areas. And so for the proposed project, and they are seeking to replace sections of that unlined canal with 2,200 feet of pipe, and replace that diversion structure with 3 head gates. The sections that they have kind of looked at and are planning to pipe are the ones that experience the highest levels of seepage and evaporation losses. And so there's the rest of the sections they hope to pipe in a future project, but for now they have these certain amount, that certain areas where they are focusing on. And I apologize, I didn't think about this till now, that I could have brought back the map that Russell had, but we don't normally think about that with committal, so I apologize. But hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of an overview of what we're looking at. Just looking through here, all the easements and permits have been acquired. One of the lingering things was they discovered they needed a conditional use permit with the county, as there was a small section through county jurisdiction, I guess, but that was one of the last holdups. But we're there. We've got all the funding requirements met. They're ready to go for committal and to start this project. Some of the benefits, they kind of reduce a lot of the seepage along their system and the evaporation, and hopefully some significant reduction, or at least decent reduction in operation and maintenance costs, especially associated with some of the trees and plant growth that they have to work on along that canal, and then making sure the embankment is good, and then of course the safety concerns with the increased public safety and eliminating some of the risk of having the open canal near and above some homes. So looking at the cost estimate and sharing now, looking at a potential total project cost of $460,000, and so they do have UDAF Ag Water Optimization Grant for just under $192,000. So they would be seeking $228,000 from this board. That would be 49.6%, and that would be coming from the revolving construction fund as well. So yeah, the staff recommendation is that the board commit 49.6% of the project cost up to $228,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $15,200. And that's staff's report. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. Would the applicant like to add anything to this presentation?
I think you pretty much summed it up pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Board, anything in the way of questions or concerns with the project? You bet, Dale. Go ahead.
Just a couple clarifications. Does this come out of Blacksmith Fork and go south along the foothills? This came along and then we didn't have the map, so I'm just kind of trying to get a visual on where that goes.
I think it goes north, doesn't it?
Goes north, yeah.
North. Okay, fair enough. Oh, well, that's true. I guess in Blacksmith Fork that would be the case. Okay, very good. And I guess the only other thing, just being in that area, it'd be nice to have an opportunity to visit the project when you get started. So I guess I'd say to Chad or to Mr. Parker, or otherwise, if there's an opportunity, give me a ring. We'll come down and take a quick look.
Yeah,
so
that'd be awesome.
That's it.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, Dale. This is right along Hollow Road to give you a little more reference of where this is at.
That helps.
Hollow Road and Nibley and it does flow north.
Very good. Okay, yeah. I was trying to get my geography straight. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dale, this is in your area. Can you handle the motion when we get to that point later in the meeting? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ethan. Next item is RE 494, Washington County Water Conservancy District. Ben, you have picked this up, and
Right, so
appreciate you grabbing onto that. And if you wouldn't mind introducing any of the applicants that are present. Or
Jonathan Ward here from, I'm sorry, is this your job, Joel? I don't want to step on your job.
You got that one. You got that one
Ward
correct. Jonathan
with
Ward up
Zions
there.
Bank.
Online, hopefully we have Morgan Drake with Washington County Water Conservancy District, possibly Jacob Sullivan, and who's the budget finance manager. Do we have Morgan and Jacob?
Yeah, they're there.
Didn't hear Morgan, but she's
here.
There she is.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm feeling somewhat intimidated this morning. I've got some big shoes to fill, so hopefully I don't fumble this up too badly. So back in June, when Tom Cox was the project manager for this project, the Board of Water Resources authorized $195 million for the first phase of the Washington County Regional Reuse Purification System project. And that is what you see here on the map. Phase 1 includes a series of pipelines, pump stations, and reservoirs needed to deliver reuse water for agriculture and secondary use throughout the service area. Construction on Phase 1 has begun and is expected to be completed by about 2030 with an expected cost of approximately $538 million. Because construction will take place over several years, because of the finance terms on the bond and for other reasons, it makes sense to issue funding for this first phase of the project in two separate bonds. And the applicant is requesting commitment of funds for the sub-projects which will be funded under the first bond, which we've dubbed Phase 1A. If you look at the map here in the upper right-hand corner in the Tokerville and Laverkin area, you will see a pipeline, Chief Toker Reservoir, and 2 pump stations. And that is the section of the project which we're committing funds for today. Specifically the dam on Chief Toker Reservoir. And then the pipeline between Tokerville and Chief Toker Reservoir is constructed already, and the pump station they'll start construction here shortly. Also, they're under the Confluence Park Water Reuse Facility pump station is also under construction. So there's those 3 sub-projects. There's 2 other sub-projects which are going to begin construction in 2027, and those include the Laverkin Secondary Irrigation System and the Confluence Park Water Reuse Facility to Laverkin Pond Pipeline. And all of that is the orange stuff that you see in the upper right-hand corner, with the exception of the rec facility, the reclamation facility. I don't believe that's included here. Got some photos to show you guys. This is the Chief Toker Reservoir Dam site. They are working away. You can see them laying down material for the embankment of the dam in this photo. Here they are backfilling over the liner in the reservoir. Here you can see a sheep's foot roller compacting the clay core of the dam. And here they're setting up concrete forms to form the wet well at the Confluence Park Reuse Pump Station. And then if you look on this photo, if you look at the house, those houses in the upper and the trees in the upper right-hand corner, you can kind of see on this next photo the progress. You can see that tree right there. This is the same facility with the current progress. Are we reading the motion? Are we not reading the motion? We're reading the motion? Okay. So the project, as I mentioned, the project was authorized in June. At that time, the cost estimate was $413 million. The current estimate is closer to $540 million. However, we're only requesting commitment of a portion of that total $540 million. These projects that we're requesting commitment for today are approximately $97 million. There is grant money involved from ARPA and the Bureau of Reclamation. And on this particular portion of the project, the applicant is not seeking market loans. They do have an application WIFIA for WIFIA funding, which will likely come into effect on the next bond for this project, or possibly even the next phase. That being said, staff recommends that the board commit 68.5% of Phase 1A, up to $66,133,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 0.5% interest over 40 years, with annual payments of approximately $1,879,000, including reserves. And that is staff's report.
Thank you for that report. Would the applicant like to add anything to that presentation?
That was a great presentation. We really appreciate it. Nothing to add, but I do want to thank the board for their time and energy on this. This project is over half the water supply in Washington County for the next 20 years, so we really appreciate the support.
Thank you. Spencer, this is in your area. Is there anything you would like to add in the discussion?
No, I don't have any discussion. It's quite a large project, and anyone that would like to come take a look at it from the board, I would encourage you to do so. It's an amazing project and very needed.
So can I ask a question? Is that possible when we're down there next or in March? It might be something that would be neat to go see.
I think that's an excellent idea. If somebody could let staff know and let us know
facilitate
what
visit
we could do to go up. And it is a large project. We will all be down there, or many of us will be there in March, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
We can accommodate that. I'm assuming Utah water users, that's the time you'll be down here?
Yes.
Yeah.
out to your staff and we'll accommodate that. That sounds great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Any other questions or concerns from the board? Yes, Juliet.
Thank you. It would be great to get eyes on this project, and I think it's such an innovative project and really excited to participate in it. I just would love some clarification and making sure that I'm reading this right. So has the cost estimate gone up by 30% over the past 6 months or so? And could you just help us understand? I mean, I know this is just how it is now, but can you help us understand what's behind that cost escalation?
Morgan, can I defer that question to you? Or
You
Jacob?
bet. Yeah, so the original cost estimate was from feasibility level design, and it was for iron instead of steel. So then as we took that feasibility design and bumped it up a bit, we redid the cost estimates. And so that is the change. So it's change in type of pipeline and also just the timing. They were older estimates from the feasibility level study.
All right, Morgan, thank you. I appreciate that. I was kind of trying to differentiate between like what's just, you know, pure inflation versus actual changes, and that helps very much. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Spencer, are you able to make the motion when we get to that point?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for being here. We'll move on to the next project. This will be the RE 500 Smithfield Irrigation Company. Ani is presenting. Glad to have you here. Thank you. Joel, anybody online or anything from the participants?
For this project, the sponsor is not, it's a committal of funds and nothing changed, so they were not required and not planning to attend.
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is Smithfield Irrigation Company, RE 500. And as Joel said, it was authorized in the October board meeting, and everything remains as authorized, but I'll give you a quick summary of the project just to remind you. The proposed project is located in and around Smithfield City in Cache County. The purpose of the project is to replace 5 deteriorating diversion structures and install about 3,500 feet of 12-inch PVC pipe and 450 feet of 18-inch PVC pipe, sediment basins, and a SCADA system. This will allow the upper part of the applicant's system to be pressurized without the need for the existing booster pump station and reduce maintenance needs and water losses with the diversion structures. The applicant has completed the necessary legal requirements to be able to commit funds. And also, as a side note, they began construction on the pressurized pipeline in November, and they started construction on the diversions and the black pipe in January, just recently. So the staff recommends the board commit 30.7% of the project cost up to $952,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 25 years with annual payments of approximately $38,100. And that is staff's report.
Thank you very, very much.
And this is in
board have any, Dale, this is your area. Anything you'd like to comment on?
No, I'm gonna have to make another visit past there. I went there earlier, but we'll go back and see what they're doing. I know what they're doing, but I'm able to make that motion at that point, so.
Very good. Any other questions from the board? All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ani. And the next project, RM 117, Lehi City. This project's in my area. Ethan, we've got you on tap. Joel, who do we have?
For this one, we have Greg Allred, the Water Department Manager. Is that correct?
Yep.
Hopefully you're not getting sick of me yet. Okay, for Lehi City, this is for their secondary metering project. They were one of the original to get ARPA funds. In fact, they were RM001. So they've come back a few times for funding from the board in different varieties. And obviously they're a big city with a lot of meters, and so it's been quite the effort, I'm sure. back in September 2024, they came to us for the 4th round of ARPA funding. Previous to that, they had received $16.2 million in ARPA funds, $3.8 million in small systems secondary meter grant funds, and $7.3 million in loan funds. And then in that September 2020 or 2024, in that 4th round of ARPA funding, it was authorized and committed an additional $3.692 million in ARPA funds. And then at that time, the funds that we're looking to commit now, the loan funds, were authorized, and so that's what we're looking at now, the 1.69 million. And so just this is this round of funding is to fund about an additional 2,500 meters. And when Steve Gregerson from our office recently sent out a survey to all the secondary meter applicants, I guess is the right word. And so when Lehi responded, they had installed over 11,000 meters and still have probably just less than 2,000. Well, in fact, it said 1,817, but potentially more as they go back through. But so they're well on their way to being metered here. So that's great, and that's where they stand. Looking at the cost sharing, I mentioned the ARPA grant for $3.692 million, and the loan funds we're looking to commit. And so the staff recommendation is that the board commit 29.75% of the project cost, up to $1,690,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $131,000. And that would be coming from the C&D funds. So that's the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. Would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation?
Well, I think Ethan covered it pretty well.
I have a question. Any idea how, since you're our poster child, so to speak, RM001, of reduction of water use with I mean, it's kind of a moving target because you've had growth, so you've added meters over time. I understand that, but right. Just an idea of how meters have helped with the project.
Right now, we're still in the data gathering phase. We don't have a metered rate established. Our city council's opted to wait until the project is finished so that we can be equitable and fair. If every citizen or every resident has a meter, then they have a metered rate. If I have a meter and Ethan doesn't have a meter, they didn't feel like it was fair to charge him a flat fee and charge me a metered rate. But the conversations have been started. We get a lot of phone calls with that very question about a lot of people want to know their usage, and it's beneficial for us to educate residents to say, your whole subdivision is third-acre lots. Most of your neighbors use X amount of gallons per water, but you use Y, and we feel like you're maybe using excessive amount of water, and it's been beneficial for sure. And that information.
You have seen a reduction. You may not know what the numbers are, but
right, yeah,
you've seen a reduction.
Yeah, we've seen a reduction, and then, like I said, gathering information to say, this is what we feel like you should be using according to your lot size. So,
okay,
yeah, no, we're excited about it. It's going to be it's definitely going to promote conservation. So,
I think it would be beneficial to the staff if at some time we could come up with some data. I think it would be very beneficial to the board and to the public in general to recognize that there's been a lot of good fruit come from this effort. Because it's a lot of money, it's a lot of work on their part, it's been a lot of work on our part, and I just think I've been. Any other questions from the board? Yes, Brian?
Not a question, but just a comment. Just want to say thanks.
Yeah.
You've been some of the real leaders in this space, and I know it's never easy for change.
Right.
So I know that you've heard people caring loudly, and I appreciate you willing to do this because I think it's important. Thanks.
Yeah, that's the message that I was tasked with bringing to the department too, is thanks to you guys for the support, monetary, right? The grants, the loans, all of the support, because it really has made the project possible, so.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Dale.
Mr. Chair, just more informational things for me. So, Greg, is the cost per meter then about $2,200?
Yeah.
Is that about what you're figuring?
Yeah, parts and installation is that was the baseline, and then there's been a labor escalation every year. We're in the beginning of our 4th year, so we started in October of 22.
Okay.
So, but we're 22 to 2,500
to put those in
per residence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your average residence would I guess they have a culinary meter and a secondary meter, so they'll have two.
Every residential connection, every residential platted lot will have 2 meters.
2 meters.
A drinking water meter and a pressurized irrigation meter.
Wow.
And Lehi is a little unique because our pressurized irrigation system feeds our exterior fire system. So our PI system stays on year round. So then our services are 4 feet deep instead of 18 inches deep. And that's why the added expense. Our contractor has been working in a lot of northern Utah cities, and they're doing 400 services a week, and in Lehi they're doing 400 services a month because they're
of the depth. Huh?
Yeah, because of the depth.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's quite intrusive in people's yards. It's been a project for sure.
So then with this phase, I guess, well, that as I understood it, that'll complete your project?
Yeah, we're hoping to be done before end of calendar year 26.
I see.
With probably a little mop-up, services that have been missed, services we didn't know about, some large services we have, schools and city parks we still need to do, but
Gotcha.
we're hoping to be done by the end of the year.
So, and then maybe just a clarification on how's this passed on to the user? Is it, I mean, obviously it's billed out somehow. Is it going to be an increase of sorts, or?
At some point when we do a rate study, when we've started a rate study, but when we complete our rate study, I think some of those costs are going to be passed on to the residents.
Okay.
Yep.
So they'll see it in some form.
At some point, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Well, one last thing. So, like, just out of curiosity, Lehi City's water source is what?
We get all over the place. We have irrigation companies. We're major shareholders in probably 5 irrigation companies. The bulk of our irrigation water comes out of Deer Creek, though, out of the PRA, the Provo River Aqueduct.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Just a curiosity. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Since this is in my project area, is there someone be willing to present this time? Dana, thank you. Okay, no further questions on that. Thank you very much. We'll excuse Board Member Tennant, has some other commitments that has to attend. We do still have a quorum, so we're in good shape. Joel, it is your turn.
Thank you. We have a new staff member we would like to introduce. If we want to invite Russell Fillmore to come up to the microphone for a moment. We announced last board meeting that our finance manager, Jim Egbert, was retiring against all of our desires, but we were thankful and much appreciate having Russell, who made a transfer. He came from the division of the Utah Geological Survey and switched over to help us here at Water Resources. So we
kind of swiped him?
We kind of swiped him. Perfect. He was came highly recommended by both Jim and the department finance manager, and the stars aligned for a moment that we could bring him over here. And it's, as you can imagine, we deal with a lot of funds at Water Resources, and so there's a steep learning curve, but he's jumped right in, and he's still smiling. Look at that. So, Russell, anything you want to tell us about yourself?
I guess. My name's Russ Fillmore. I'm grateful for this opportunity to take on this role. Jim's announcement for his retirement was pretty quick. It just seemed like a great opportunity. I do have worked in this space for 23 years as support accountant for a small irrigation company in Holiday. Much smaller operations than what you deal with and what you see from day to day. So I've been doing this for a while at a very small scale. I've been with the state government for 23 years, mostly with public safety, just kind of advancing through that organization. Last 2 years, like Joel mentioned, with Utah Geological Survey as their financial manager. Originally from Southern Utah, graduated from Utah State with an accounting degree and an MBA from Western Governors University. 5 children, 2 grandchildren. I've been in Salt Lake for about 25 years, but just grateful for this opportunity to be here and be in this organization with Joel's leadership, and just real friendly welcome from all the staff, and just looking forward to working with you all. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Russell? Thanks. Yeah, we're really grateful to have his help. Looking on, Shalane, do you want to talk about status of funds?
I am happy to, and I know Juliet had to leave, but I thought I would chime in with a couple reminders before I jump into the status of funds about the revolving construction fund and the C&D differences. And I did look up the current board interest rate, max rate for municipal projects. So as a reminder, the revolving construction fund is only for projects where the board's funding is no more than $1 million. It's not for municipalities at all. It is only for irrigation companies, domestic water companies, basically mutual nonprofits is what is funded from the revolving fund, and there is no interest charged from that fund ever. The C&D fund is the one that can fund pretty much anything, particularly over $1 million, but municipalities always have to go there, even if it's a smaller project. The minimum rate, the rates the board currently has as their guidelines, 1% for ag projects, and the current max municipal rate is actually about 3.84%. So the board's guideline states 75% of the current revenue bond index, and we update it quarterly. So January 1st, April 1st, whatever it is on those dates is what we'll use for the quarter. So those are the distinctions there. Of course, we expect things to change as UWIP is implemented and processes change, even though there's not really any new funding being discussed at this point in time. So we will keep you posted about what that entails. Of the projects you're seeing today, 2 of them are feasibilities, both coming from the revolving fund. The 4 committal of funds, 2 from the revolving construction fund. 1 is that secondary meter that comes from the C&D, as Ethan mentioned, and then the 1 big Colorado River C&D money that came from the WIRA. So as you can see, even with your actions today, the revolving construction fund still has just over $9 million available. Dam safety shows a pretty big balance, but as you know, we keep a running tab of what projects are moving, and those are upon invitation only. We don't ask people to let us know. We let them know when we have funds available for their project. The C&D fund is, it's had some really big balances, but at this point in time, it's just below 60 million that is unobligated. And the Colorado River reuse funds we have separated out. And of course, they're over appropriated at this point in time because we did authorize the full amount, even though those transfers are being made $50 million a year. So come July, we'll have enough to cover the additional amount. So by the time Washington County actually needs their funds for the next bond, we should have it available. And there are no more city water loan fund. There's no more ARPA fund. The small system secondary meter grants, we have just over 200,000. Haven't seen a need for those yet, but we'll be looking for projects. I believe every once in a while we may have someone reach out that says, I didn't know this was a thing that we had to have our meters in, and so we'll be looking to get those funds out if we can find those applicants out there. So are there any questions on the current status of funds?
Shirlene, I was just curious on the C&D fund. What are the expected revenues for this year? Do you have any idea?
That's a really good question. I could look that up if I had my computer handy. I will say sales tax deposits over the course of a fiscal year range about $45 to $50 million. And then, of course, there's repayments. And that's the number I can't remember. I can look that up, though, and get it to you during the break. But, yeah, we do have significant inputs coming in. And I will say the balance that showed at the beginning of the fiscal year, $100 million, does take that into account. So we do include that in what's available over the course of the fiscal year. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalane. I passed out a copy of the Water Resources Bill Tracker. Wanted to just review some of the pieces of legislation we are following. Hopefully the link that I sent you works. If it doesn't, I think you can hit the button to get request access, but I think I was able to share that with you all to follow along as the bills go through the session and see what passes and what doesn't. I don't want to cover all of them. The ones that are highlighted in blue are the ones that might have a direct impact to water resources. So that first one is House Bill 154 from Representative Doug Owens, would require the division to do a study on water loss. We plan to be able to do that in-house and without asking for an appropriation, because the data should be available through the Division of Water Rights and the water use data they collect. We're hoping to do an analysis of the source meter info, compare that against the end user meter info, and that difference can sometimes give you an idea of what losses might be between what went into the system and then what was metered at the end of it. Those losses can be anything from fire flows to flushing of systems to leaks. And so I think the idea here is the legislature, there have been bills run over the years to try to require systems to do audits of to look for losses. It's always run into hang-ups. Some legislators don't like the idea of requiring that, or it could be onerous for small systems. We thought we'd start with just let's do a study and get a look at what losses might be, share that with the legislature, not identifying specific systems, but more just generally say, hey, for small systems, we saw these types of losses. For large systems, this is what we saw. And then they can choose if it seems like they want to take the next step of maybe encouraging or requiring water audits to be done, but starting with just looking at a study. The next one on the list, House Bill 157, is the Department of Natural Resources Cleanup Bill. We have an item in here that Shalane discovered that back before we got all of the secondary metering money, the board had set up the idea of what if we gave loans to folks that want to do secondary metering installation, and what if we gave them a nice interest rate of 1%? And the board at that time said let's do up to $10 million of that so that we don't deplete all of our funds. And then came all the legislation with the big secondary metering money, and we have since vastly exceeded that $10 million cap, but it was still in code. Shalane noticed that, so we said, let's put that in the DNR cleanup bill and see if they can just strike that cap and bring us back into compliance. So that's that one. The next page, House Bill 175, Public Funds and Political Activities Amendments. I've highlighted this one because it concerns us a little bit. We do understand that the sponsor, Representative Trevor Lee, is working on an amendment, because as it's worded right now, essentially anybody that gets state funding or grants, they would be prohibited from receiving those if they are politically active at all, and that would include like making public comments or taking an active stance. And we thought, well, this could be trouble because we do have some of our water providers are active up at the Capitol, and so he plans to make some adjustments to this to make it clear that I think he's more concerned about environmental activist groups that may be receiving state funds and then using those state funds to actively go against the state. So that's what I understand is his concern there, but just something that we will be looking at and following. House Bill 296, water commitment amendments from Representative Wynn. This one was heard yesterday in committee and passed unanimously. It would just allow a water provider to make a statement in their water conservation plan that they intend to commit water to the Great Salt Lake. It doesn't necessarily doesn't actually make that transfer occur, but it would just be, there's a whole list of things that someone can include in their water conservation plan, and this just adds one more item to the list of they could commit some water to the Great Salt Lake. And Salt Lake Public Utilities was there and commented in favor of this, and so that one will be one that'll be interesting to watch as well. Just a few more House bills. House Bill 328 from Representative Clint Okerlund, water usage modifications. This would give a definition for non-functional turf and require that new development not have overhead spray irrigation for non-functional turf. This was run last year and made it all the way through, and then I think it just did not pass at the last minute on the floor. So they're giving it another shot with a different sponsor, and I think we obviously would be supportive of this, as it's one of the efforts we're trying to do, is knowing that our water supply, we will do a lot better going into the future if our new development goes in with a water-wise landscape at the time of construction, as opposed to then having to go back and retrofit and pay people to take out the grass that they put in. Again, I'll point out that a water-wise landscape can include grass, and the idea is just they want it to be active turf, meaning it's used. And so sometimes the phrase that we say is, if the only time you ever walk on it is to mow it, does it really need to be grass? But if it's being used, that's great, and there's certainly a place for it. So for non-functional turf, it would mean it's not being actively used and it's more for just aesthetic purposes. That would be the definition of non-functional. And so, but if it's for active use, parks, playgrounds, then that's great. But we do see a lot of places where it's installed, say in park strips or even at a commercial building, they have an area out front and they just throw in grass, even though it's never really used, and it could instead be water-wise plants and use a third of the water that it would if it was grass. So that's that one. House Bill 349 from Representative Walt Brooks this one does affect the board. It would allow a new type of project that could be funded from the Water Infrastructure Restricted Account, which we call the WIRA. Right now, that account was set up for funding of the Lake Powell Pipeline, Bear River Development, repair and replacement of federal infrastructure projects. The new one that was added was the Colorado River, which is where Washington County is getting their funding for the reuse project. And then this would add another possible use of the WIRA funds, which would be dams and reservoirs. And this one will be interesting. I do know they probably have some reservoirs in mind, one of which I think is Gooseberry Narrows, which will be one of the later bills we'll talk about. House Bill 400, landscape water amendments, is from Representative Owens and talks about we try to encourage municipalities to have ordinances in place to require water-wise landscaping in new development. And then this bill would say, hey, if you're in the Great Salt Lake Basin, you've got to do that. You've got to have the ordinances in place. We'll see if that one makes it. The Senate bills now. Senate Bill 23, airborne chemical amendments from Senator Ron Winterton. This one had a similar story last year, passed through committees and then didn't quite make it on the floor at the last minute. The intent there is to prohibit chemicals from being released from aircrafts. This does not involve our cloud seeding program, and they've made that very clear by exempting that in the bill. But we sometimes get questions about it, of people thinking that I think it's mostly targeting commercial aircraft, and the concept of solar geoengineering, which is kind of there's a lot of questions around if that is a conspiracy theory or something that really exists. So, but there's a bill to address it. The Senate Bill 46, Waterwise Landscaping Amendments, from Representative Stratton, it takes an opposite stance when we look at turf, and this one defines functional turf. So instead of, I think his idea was, let's take a pro stance on turf and say these are the good things it can do, and as long as it's for these good reasons, then use it. In many ways, it kind of arrives at the same end point. We tend to prefer the non-functional definition just because it seems clearer that if it's not for active use, then let's move towards a waterwise landscape instead. So this, at some point, I imagine these two definitions will have to come to a head in the session and work it out, and we'll see what happens there. Senate Bill 198. This is the one that I most wanted to talk to the board about, because this would be a dramatic change, and one that none of us are sure what it would look like. But the bill would create a new office within the Division of Water Resources called the Office of Water Management. It talks about having a water manager that would be appointed by the Utah Water Agent, which is Joel Ferry, and that this office could receive projects. Projects could be nominated to be managed by this office, by public entities, and then this entity could own water rights, own projects, own facilities, distribute water, sell water, almost turning an office of the division into some kind of a water district, if it would be what kind of comes to my mind. So big change. I have not yet heard directly from the sponsor as to what's the intent here, what's the sponsor thinking. Joel Ferry believes that the idea would be that if there were to be a state project that the water agent discovers, say, oh, this could be a feasible project to help bring additional water to the state, it could then be turned over to this new office to be managed. As far as a fiscal note for right now, because there's not an identified project for the state to manage, it was hard to say, well, this is what the office would consist of, this many staff, and this. So we have, for now, just submitted a fiscal note to cover the idea of setting up a process, and a written process as the bill outlines, but not actually creating an office yet, because we wouldn't know what to create. So, questions on that one?
Can I ask a question? How does that relate? I mean, because it identifies state water projects, right? Are these projects under the WIRA, or are these separate projects as identified?
I'm thinking that they're thinking outside of Lake Powell Pipeline and Bear River Development to something different than that, because those projects already have statute and a way that they would be administered. For example, with Lake Powell Pipeline, if it were ever to be built, would be funded by the state would be involved, and the state would actually technically own it, but we know it would be Washington County that would be operating and maintaining this project while they're paying it back, and then at some point the deed would be handed over to them, say, yep, it's been paid off, here you go. But it would not be a project that would be operated and maintained by the state. And so this would change that to say the state, there could be projects that the division would be operating and maintaining, and yeah, just the thought of us having operations staff and maintenance staff and selling water and collect it would put us in a completely different arena than we've ever been, but one that we will be following and keeping you up to date on. The last one on the back page is that one that I mentioned about Gooseberry Narrows. It's a Senate Bill 209, which would create Gooseberry Narrows State Park, which is so interesting to have a state park at a reservoir that doesn't yet exist. This project has been in the works for over 75 years. If you look on the list of the last page of the status of funds that Shalane shared with us, there is an item for San Pete Water Conservancy District for the Narrows Dam. It was received in 1983 with an estimated cost I show of about $35 million. We know that that's the 83 cost. Right now it could be anywhere between $60 and $100 million. there is a push right now, I know that this is a priority project for Governor Cox, and there are other legislators that feel like there may be a chance to resurrect that project, the Gooseberry Narrows. If it were to get wings, there could be a tie with the bill we talked about from Representative Walt Brooks, which would provide the ability to use WIRA funds for a dam or reservoir. So that would be an option if this were all to happen, that the board could consider funding a project like that from the WIRA, project with that size of cost estimate. So these are all interesting things that we will be watching. There's even, there's more bills than that in the tracker that we are following, but I didn't want to take all the time to cover those. Moving on to, are there any questions, I guess, on the legislation for now? One of the other items, the Appropriations Committee does plan to pursue some possible budget cuts, and we could be affected at Water Resources to the tune of maybe $1.7 million of ongoing cuts, and those could potentially come from some of our secondary water metering grants, some of our landscape incentives that the conservation section works on, to the tune of about secondary metering grants would be about $500,000, landscape incentives $200,000, cloud seeding program $500,000, and our conservation rebates $42,000. They also included a item, the legislative fiscal analysts included a cut to the Utah Waterways, which is that governmental nonprofit to help promote the Slow the Flow program and educate citizens on water in the state, cutting their budget by $500,000, which is about half of the annual appropriation that they get through our office. And so that could be a big impact to them. And we'll see what happens with these cuts. We'll obviously be watching those as well.
I got a question on that one. So I think we get updated on our projects, and we see some pretty significant reductions or enticements through cloud seeding and other things that benefit many, many water users, but particularly the Great Salt Lake. And why would we? I understand it's not us, it's somebody telling us, but it seems to me that that's counterproductive when we're trying to take money, new monies, and get to the Great Salt Lake and try to help that when we have some in place. And maybe, Brian, you have an insight to that, but that's confusing to me.
No, I have no insight. Let me ask you a separate question, though. Director Williams, is there a list where we can go online and see where all the proposed cuts for the division?
Yes, I can share that with you all.
That would be actually super helpful.
And
yeah. To your point, Chair, I think that it's a challenging exercise, because I do think sometimes we're saving money at the expense of saving water, and that's I think counterintuitive to your point.
Well, that plus the fact that it seems that we're looking to perhaps put more money in other areas to help enhance the Great Salt Lake when we already have some enhancements coming. Maybe they're not as cost producing, I don't know, but that would certainly be a concern that should be looked at.
It definitely felt like the wrong year to be cutting water programs that can help with a year like we're facing this year. So we'll see. These are the recommendations from the legislative fiscal analysts, and we'll see what the legislature ends up actually doing with them. I know that there will be probably some jockeying of who wants what amongst legislative leadership, and we'll see. But we'll certainly send you that voting packet that the Appropriations Committee is working on, so that you can see what they're considering. Let's look at the next item, which was the Attorney General update from Sarah Schechter.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be with you today. Sarah Schechter with the Attorney General's Office. I don't have too much to update you on today, just two items. One, first of all, Shalane and I are working on updating board guidelines, and we hope to get you drafts soon. there are a few items that I know we need to turn our attention to. A sub point to that is Shalane and I both worked on updating the format of the meeting, and you can please let me know if you have suggestions, and of course let Shalane know as well. The other item I have to mention is the Great Salt Lake litigation, Utah Physicians versus Department of Natural Resources. We are still in the fact discovery of portion of litigation. Water Resources, even though it was not a named defendant, of course we did intervene, the board and the division. And we actually have quite a lot of the information that the plaintiffs are seeking housed within our division. The reason for that being is we are the entity that does the planning, preserving, conserving, developing of water resources within the state, including in the Great Salt Lake Basin. And we are working closely with Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, Division of Water Rights, and even the Commissioner's Office to produce that information. If you have more specific questions about the litigation, I'm happy to answer them. And you'll notice from now on our agenda, we will include a line at the end for all meetings that says a closed session as needed to discuss reasonably imminent or pending litigation. If we need to do that, we can. If not, we don't need to, but that's just, they're going to be there ongoing. Any questions? All right. Oh,
Sorry, just one, Sarah.
yeah.
Are we under any deadlines, or what are next steps?
So fact discovery is set to end sometime, I believe, in June, but in all likelihood, it will continue on into the fall. Once fact discovery concludes, and by the way, with fact discovery, I anticipate that they're going to ask for depositions. I believe that they will probably want to depose at least one or two staff members from Water Resources, and specifically Layla Ahmadi, who is the manager of our modeling section. She knows a great deal about the modeling that our agency has done for the lake. And then after fact discovery concludes, we will head into what's called expert discovery, and then that's when we get into the battle of what do the experts say the lake needs, and so that will be an interesting time, but that's where we are right now. Also in March, the judge will be hearing a motion to dismiss, essentially, on the case that's Barani case that I believe Mr. Sorensen briefed you all about at the October meeting. I'm not sure where that will head, but I will have hopefully an update for you at the March meeting in St. George. Perfect. Thank you all.
Thanks, Sarah. One more, just a few items from the division as a kind of a division update. Our staff has been working busily on the state water plan, which is due at the end of this year. They held a state water plan workshop with the directors of all the partner agencies at the new Fire Operations Center. It was kind of just a fun new place to get together and get their input on what their vision is for the state water plan. They've developed this vision statement: a safe, reliable water supply that enhances urban and rural communities, supports the economy, and protects and improves the environment now and into the future. And then 4 accompanying goals that tie to that vision that will help them guide the content of the state water plan. The recommendations in the state water plan will be determined through the lens of 3 key themes, which are reliability and resilience, collaboration, and stewardship. And they're working to prepare a draft for review by mid-March. Even though it's not due till the end of the year, they know that there's going to be lots of reviews and lots of input and then lots of additional changes so that it can actually be published by the end of the year. So we will make a draft available to the board as soon as one's ready and get that to you all for your review as well. Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. I know you've had some updates on that. They were able to present at the Utah Watershed Council meeting and give them a draft of the plan. Their comments are due at the end of this month, and then they will work on compiling a report by March 1st of the finalized Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. And they also presented at the Legislative Water Development Commission this last few weeks. From our conservation section, just an update there that over 2.7 million square feet of grass was replaced during 2025 using state funds, and that would be the state funds in partnership with the district, the Water Conservancy District funds, kind of joining together to make those rebates possible. They have been holding WaterWise webinars that have been popular of educating people on the practices that they can do at home to have a WaterWise landscape. They've been teaching local scapes classes throughout the state and attending many, many events. Some of the upcoming events that they have would be attending the Rural Water Users Association Conference, and the Cash Home and Garden Show up in Logan, which will be March 20th and 21st. An update from our cloud seeding group. We are fully operational, and including the new remote ground-based generators and the drone program. We just need more clouds to come through for us to seed. So we're hopeful that Mother Nature accepts this challenge and says, "Oh, you don't think I can get to a normal snow year just in February and March?" Because right now I think it stands at about a 30% chance, and maybe Mother Nature will say, "Oh, hold on, I'm gonna do that," and we could get some benefit from that cloud seeding program. The Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan, they're continuing to work on the studies. The main goal there is to gather data and information that can help us make more informed decisions, and this will be a useful tool, and it also has a draft due at the end of this year. So this is going to be a big year. Lots of things that we've been working on coming to fruition and being completed. And the last update I had for this meeting was the Colorado River. The draft EIS has been released by Department of the Interior, and it has 5 alternatives: a no action, a basic coordination alternative, enhanced coordination, maximum operational flexibility, and the last one, supply driven. The 7 basin states are obviously still working furiously and meeting regularly. They have the deadline of February 14th to have an agreement. It depends on who you ask, of the hopefulness that if they make it, but I do know that has been expressed as a firm deadline. And I know the Colorado River Authority is also very busily reviewing the draft and preparing what a state response might be to that. So that's an update on that. Any questions for me or the division?
Joel, I just had one question, and I apologize that I didn't answer this during the legislative update. With the fee study that was completed, is there any follow-up legislation that you see this year?
We're not anticipating anything this year. I'm glancing at Shalane. She's shaking her head as well. We have kind of heard that it's a tight year budgetarily, which kind of also explains the proposed cuts. Is maybe they're looking for funding to maybe cover a few new things here and there, but probably not seeing any legislation about adding money to the Water Infrastructure Fund this year.
Thank you.
That's it for me, Chair Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. So this is the point where we can take a break for just a few minutes. Oh, do you have something?
Can I slide in here in the other items as
Absolutely.
needed section? Thinking about the requested site visit in March, I'm looking at the water users schedule. It looks like it is going from March 16th to March 18th, which is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Wednesday is we're going to finish that day out with a board meeting Wednesday afternoon. So as far as the site visit goes, it's looking like maybe the Monday, or possibly staying overnight Wednesday and doing it on Thursday. And I'm curious what the board's preference is on that.
So Ben, just what time do we typically get out of board meeting on Wednesday?
I think it says here the board meeting is at 1:30. So 4 o'clock? 3?
Too tight on
3, 4 o'clock.
I was going to say maybe we could just do it. I mean, it still requires an overnight stay, but maybe we could do it after board meeting.
Wednesday evening?
I would be good for that.
Okay. Right. Sounds good. We'll shoot for that.
I won't be here for that time. I'll be out of state.
Water district folks will have another conference we're running to in Los Angeles for water reuse. So the Monday probably work better, but we can coordinate offline if needed.
Okay. We'll do that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the water law conference that happens on Monday.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. Further details to follow, I guess.
Okay, I was kind of thinking 15 or 20-minute break. Is there a, what'd you say, Dan? 10:30. Is that okay, 10:30? We'll reconvene. If I could have a motion for a recess for 20 minutes? Is that a motion?
Make a
Brian?
motion. I'll
Yeah, also move. And I think we have a second already.
I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Recess.
Aye.
Want to come back from our brief recess and continue with the meeting, please. You don't have any other business, right? Okay. First item of business discussed now is approval of minutes. Are there any corrections or edits to the minutes that you found? No? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of, let's see, where were we, December 9th?
Thank you, Dale. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dana, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Starting with Spencer.
Aye.
Aye.
Brian, do you want me to include you on this one? Okay. William?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we motion passes with the abstention from Councilmember Steed on this one item. He's now joined us. That passes. Next, we will have our NRCS snow report of Jordan Clayton. We welcome Jordan, and a very unenviable position at this point, but we love you. I just wish that whatever you could do.
Well, I keep being told to create some snow every time I go to a water supply presentation, so this year I put some on my slide. I hope
Awesome, I see it.
maybe will help us have this come to fruition. I did have a question before I get going here. I sort of loaded up this talk with a little bit of extra content, but I wanted to get a sense for how much time I should allot. Happy to adjust as needed.
I think we're okay.
Okay. If I start to go,
we have a rush, so.
Okay. If I start to go long, please tell me to stop. Okay, good morning. Thank you again for having me as part of this meeting. Again, Jordan Clayton, I'm the supervisor of the Utah Snow Survey, here to provide a snowpack and water supply update. And the conditions, as you'll see over the course of the next 15-20 minutes, however long we'll talk, are pretty extreme. And so let's go through some specifics. Starting with the maps that I show at all of these meetings, where we have the major basins of Utah colored by the percent normal of their snowpack. These data are taken from 140 snow-tall sites that are spread throughout Utah's mountains. And those snow-tall sites are colored as well by the percent normal. This is as a percent of median. And so we're looking at everything in red being less than 50% of normal. We have some numbers that are well below 50%, as I'll dive into. We don't really have anywhere in the state at this point that's looking positive or close to normal. When we compare it to where we were last year at this time, you can see the last year's major basins on the left side and this year's major basins on the right side. There are a couple places that are doing better than last year, but that's just because last year the southwest corner of the state was in really extreme poor snowpack state. And so other than that, the rest of the state is about the same or significantly worse than where we were last year at this time. Although it may feel like we're alone in this, we're not. That's a clever road sign that was on one of the highways in Utah just recently, but unfortunately there's a large swath of the west that's also experiencing this pain to varying degrees. You can see the percent normal for the Huck 6 basins across the west as is shown here. If we combine all of Utah's snow-tall sites into one graph, we get this unfortunate looking graph that we're looking at right here, where the current conditions are shown by the black line. You can see how that compares to normal with the green line and all the range of previous observations. If we get below the bottom of this graph, that means that we're breaking records. Currently 58% of normal, which is only the second percentile, meaning that we've been better than this 98% of the time, and this is bordering on uncharted territory. We do still have about 2 months to go until our typical peak snowpack, but we have a lot of catching up to do, as I'll talk about. Unfortunately, we look to be on track to start breaking new records for minimum snowpack starting in the next few days. We know that there's not significant enough snow coming to the state, so we will be breaking records again within the next 2 or 3 days, and we'll be outside of the range of these previous observations. The record-breaking conditions should continue until perhaps around the 10th or so of February, where we're hoping that we'll get some storm activity. I'll talk more about that at the end of the presentation. Now, I know we just referenced, Jolie mentioned maybe only about a 30% chance of catching up to a normal snowpack peak. Unfortunately, that number has gotten worse. We're now looking at only about a 20% chance of that happening. We also have increased the potential to stay in record-breaking territory, about 20% chance that our peak, if we project from here forward, will also be a new record low snowpack peak for the state. If we compare where we're at as a state as of yesterday compared to all the previous statewide totals going back to 1981, that's what's shown here. So in each one of these bars, the statewide snow water equivalent is shown by the height of that bar. And then you can also see where that year peaked with those little triangles. So that's the bars show where the state was at as of yesterday, each one of those years. And then you can see where, again, that year peaked. You can also see how that compares to normal with those upper green lines for the normals for the peaks, and the lower green line is the normal for that day. If we organize this by total, we see that 2026 is right in line with 1981 and 2018 for the worst 3 years that we've had as of this time. Unfortunately, all the years that were around this much going back in time all peaked well below normal. 2014 did a little bit better, but of course we're trying to be optimistic about this. So let's dive into the specific numbers in terms of departures from normal for our snowpack. These are the individual snowtell sites here, not colored by percent normal, but here these are the inches below where they should be for this time of year. So you're seeing everything in red is 5 inches or more of snow water equivalent, not snow depth, but that's the water equivalent of the snowpack in those locations. That's a lot of snow that we're behind. I estimate it would take about 5 to 6 good statewide storms to catch up, of course, above and beyond what we already should be getting moving forward. So we would need to have 5 or 6 extra storms, if you will, above and beyond the background frequency of storms that we should be getting. Where we see those little green dots in terms of the departures from normal, those are places that are still close to normal in terms of their water equivalent. Those are mostly our highest elevation sites. There's actually a really good relationship right now between where we have the highest elevation, which is shown on the y-axis here, and where we have the highest percent normal, which is the x-axis. There are some exceptions, but by and large, as we get into the highest elevation sites, that's where we're still storing pretty good snow. Tri-Lake's still doing okay, for example. But there's a strong negative trend as you move to the left. A lot of records being broken by our snowtell sites. Everything in red is at record low snow water equivalent for this day. Everything in orange is second lowest on record. Combined, that makes up 25% of all of our sites in the state of Utah are breaking records. This was as of yesterday. I did not look as of today. Another thing that I think warrants mention is the density of the snowpack. Because we've received some high altitude rain, because temperatures have been warm, because we haven't, of course, gotten the snow itself, the snow that we do have is anomalously dense for this time of year. I'm concerned about that also. I'm sorry to be such a downer here, but I have to tell you about the things that are going on in our world. Because that's very likely at this point to lead to an early ripening of the snowpack, meaning that the snowpack is primed and ready to melt. Which doesn't, if we have early ripening of the snowpack, that tends to lead to a lower return on the snowpack when it all gets to our reservoirs. It spreads it out, and it winds up being a little bit of a less efficient mechanism for delivery. Something else that I mentioned to a reporter recently that's a concern is that we've got all this soil moisture that I'll talk more about in our mountains, but we don't have the snowpack on top of it. I'm concerned about an early melt, but we still have wet soils that'll promote a lot of forage, and then that will dry out for a really long time. The forest fire season is something to be watching based on the data that we're seeing. All right, precipitation story has been very different. Utah had really excellent precipitation in October. Of course, things have been really flat in January. We're currently close to normal statewide for precipitation going back to October 1st. If we look at the month-by-month progression of our precipitation, it's shown by the thickness of those bars on the left relative to normal on the right. You can see that the thick blue on the bottom there, that was October. And of course, the green there is January. We've been pretty flat in the month of January with the exception of the first few days of the month. I mentioned soil moisture. Our statewide soil moisture is doing very well in our mountains. We're currently at about the 80th percentile, which is excellent. You can see the basins around the state colored by percent normal for this time of year. Unfortunately, part of the reason why the soil moisture is so wet is because some of that came down as rain in our highest elevations instead of snow. And so where you see that really large boost right around the turn of the calendar year, that's a time that we typically would have been flat for soil moisture, and it got boosted up well above normal at that time. So we're happy for the soil moisture, but of course we need to recognize why we got to this point. Our reservoirs are still doing pretty well. We're about 62% of capacity. You can see the blue dot there. This is as of January 1st. This is now calendar years. You can see the previous 2 years are the lines that are above there, and then the previous 2 years before that are the lines that are below. Of course, the big boost in 2023 from the big snowpack season that we had. We're right in between where we were, as I'm trying to mention, from in the 2025-2024 cycle, and then the previous cycle where we didn't have all that boost. The one area of the state that we continue to monitor in terms of the depletion compared to last year is the upper severe. You can see the individual basins here. Last year is purple, and this year is green. And the one that's most drawn down relative to last year is the upper severe, so that's something to watch. I'm going to be borrowing from a couple other agencies here. On the left side is from the USGS. You can see all the stream gauging locations in the state colored by percent normal. They have a little bit of a different scheme, but it's similar. Everything that's orange and red on their scheme, as you move to the right into the most recent days of January, we're getting into more and more anomalously dry conditions. And where you see that bright red, those are record low conditions for those stream flows. So obviously things have been worsening. And the drought map for the state of Utah as of today is shown on the right side. Most of the state is in D2, a couple spots of D3 on the map. Now, a big part of why we haven't gotten the snowpack has had to do with the precipitation that's come in. It hasn't been snow, it's been rain. This is a picture that I took on the way out to the meeting that I spent with William out in Vernal. This is Strawberry Reservoir, not frozen, which is disturbing to me. It should be disturbing to everybody. You can see for the state, the temperatures have bounced around quite a bit, but they have hovered at or above the range of previous observations multiple times, as you can see by the black line, which is a statewide graph. All right, so I hesitate to show any stream flow forecast this early in the season. They are very advisory only, and we know that there's a lot that can change between now and April 1st. What is shown here is the percent of average. Here I'm using average as my measure of central tendency. The percent of average stream flow that's been forecast for April through July at all the forecast points around the state, and you can see the basins are colored by the amalgamation of sites within those areas. I'm going to say with confidence that the February 1 forecasts are going to be substantially lower than what's shown on this diagram. Of course, we'll have more precise numbers here within the next week or so. One feature that I just wanted to point out, unfortunately this is last year's graph, so the data are not as positive this year, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that you can now, on our map, when you're looking at our forecast points, you can click on those forecast points to get these evolution plots, which are pretty cool, and a nice way to track the evolution of where we think the expectations are for these forecasts. Something that I haven't talked about in this room yet, these guidance forecasts, which are brand new. These are very similar to what the CBRFC publishes. So these are unofficial mid-month forecasts that are being produced every 7 days for a variety of locations around the state. They're not being produced everywhere. There's just select locations around the state that these are being distributed. So this is the example for the Spanish Fork at Castilla. You can see the official forecast with the colored dots and how it's trended down since then. Same thing for Weber at Oakley. We had a little bit of boost based on that first week in January, and then things have trended down since then, and the next one should be coming out in the next, I think, day. One thing that I wanted to ask this room is if there's any locations around the state that you would really appreciate a guidance forecast, to let me know. Again, we don't have the capacity to do that at all of our forecast points, but if there are specific locations that are most crucial, please let me know and I'll pass that along to our forecast team. So this is from our forecast team, some quotes, just comments on how unique and challenging this year's January 1 forecasts were and will continue to be. Notably higher precipitation than snow on the ground. Our forecasting system is probabilistic. It's a statistical relationship between what we've seen in our observations with precip and with snow water equivalent. And when one of those numbers is really high, like precipitation based on water that was received really early in the water year in October, but hasn't really been received as much since then, and the other number is really low, that's a pretty unusual circumstance, and there's no really good analogs for that to drive the modeling. And so the modelers have been really struggling with how to put together reliable forecasts. There's been great communication with the CBRFC and what they're seeing. They have a little bit of a different approach, so there's been some collaboration there. But unfortunately, we're lacking good analogs to this year to help make these forecasts more precise. A couple quick comments on the Great Salt Lake. I'm going to go a little farther on the Great Salt Lake today than I have in the past, so we'll see if Brian starts to throw things at me. The overall basin conditions are 60% of normal snow water equivalent, again, second percentile. Precipitation very similarly close to normal for this time of year, no big shocker there. Our January 1 lake level was 4191.4. We're currently about 1/10 of a foot higher than that as of yesterday. The projections from our January 1 forecast was that the lake would go up about a foot. Of course, that's a middle of the road forecast. This is a probabilistic range that goes from about 0.2 feet to almost 2 feet. So sure, it's going to go from anywhere from 0.2 to 2 feet. That's pretty imprecise. But we want to at least have some kind of a ballpark middle value that we can use for these projections. Our February 1 projection is obviously going to be lower based on what we've seen in January. This is something new. This is looking at the inflow into the Great Salt Lake over time. And this is for the bars here, just to be clear, are for the entire calendar year, not just looking at the runoff season April through July, except for the one that I added on the right side. So there's a little bit of an apples to oranges thing going on here that I want to be clear about. But what's shown here is over the last 87 to 2025, what's come into the lake over time. And you can see 2023, you can see 2011 really jumping off the page. The average annual inflow, we anticipate the 2026 inflow to be substantially lower than average. The April through July forecast, for context, was about 410,000 acre feet, which again is just that runoff period. There's of course water that comes in outside of that, but for scale, I put that on the right side there just so you could get a sense for how low that is compared to previous years. And of course, that's just our 50th exceedance probability forecast, so there's others. If we just do some quick math and we talk about the Great Salt Lake recovery to get it up to that 4198 number, that's sort of a magic bottom end of this optimal range that we're hoping for. If we say the average annual inflow into the lake is about 1.3 million acre feet, which is that green line on the graph, the current lake storage is about 8.6 million acre feet. I've been a little bit more precise in my numbers on the screen. Of course, these are based on the rating curve estimates that other folks have developed. If the target is 4198, that would be about 13.5 million acre feet total water. That's about 4.87 or so million acre feet that would need to be added, which is the equivalent of about 3.7 years worth of annual flow. That's a lot of extra water. If we look at this year's runoff forecast, that's about 10 times more than we're saying is going to come in between April and July this year. So again, not trying to be grim, and I know these are kind of back of the envelope type numbers, but we I think need to be honest about what's coming. Now, speaking of what's coming, we do have some promise in the short-term weather forecast. I don't typically like to look much more than about 3 or 4 weeks out, and so that's what I've done here. I've included some information from colleagues. These are not from our office, but this is a nice forecast graph that was provided courtesy of Evan Thayer with Open Snow. I think does a nice job. I added the little guy with the fingers, by the way. But anyway, he nicely illustrated that we might get a little something that will dust the state February 2nd to 4th, but the big pattern change we're hoping for is coming hopefully around February 9th, February 10th, that you see on the right side of that graph. That's coincident with what's being predicted from the Climate Center. You can see the 3 to 4 week precipitation outlook does look positive for northern Utah. We have to kind of grin and bear it, I think, until then. And then the long-term La Nina El Nino pattern seems to be transitioning to a neutral pattern over the rest of the winter, and then moving into an El Nino pattern for the remainder of the calendar year. So that time will tell if that actually provides any benefit for us. We don't have a really strong ENSO connection here, but I'm just providing that as hopefully fodder for our hopes. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Ward?
The good news is I learned how to make little snowflakes on my slides.
Jordan, what was the acronym that you used towards the beginning of the presentation? It was longer than not.
The CBRFC?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center. So the NRCS provides a water supply forecast from April through July, and so does the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center with NOAA. And we work with that. It's Michelle Stokes' shop, and we work with them to make sure that we're, hopefully not completely out of line in terms of one prediction versus another. They've actually hosted in the last couple of years a landing page where you can see their forecast and our forecast in the same place, which is a really nice collaboration with both of those offices. So I'm really pleased that we've stood that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I, for one, think you put as positive a spin on it as you possibly could.
Thank
so
you.
Good
Okay.
job.
Trying.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we do have board actions. And the first item, these were all items that were previously discussed in the earlier part of the meeting. RE 502, Farm Creek Irrigation Company. Marisa, are you presenting on this?
Nope, we're just letting the board go ahead with the motions. I'll just move the slides for you, though.
Okay. Are there any additional questions pertaining to this project from board members? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that the board authorize 8.7% of the project cost, up to $435,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 20 years with annual payments of approximately $21,750.
Okay, we have a motion from Board Member Merkley. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Dale Buxton. And we will do a roll call vote, starting with Spencer. Spencer Jones, are you there? Okay, then we will start with Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Aye, Spencer, sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones. It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is RE 503, Alberta Water Company. Are there any other questions or discussion on this issue? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $98,000 and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $6,500.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Van Horn. Is there a second?
I can be the second on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Buxton.
Leave me hanging.
We will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Merkley.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
Motion is unanimous. Passes. Item RE 475, Hyrum Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company. Are there any additional questions or discussion on the project? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I can make that motion. I move that the board commit 49.6% of the project cost, up to $228,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $15,200.
We have a motion by Councilmember Buxton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Steed. We will proceed to vote. Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Merkley.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Next item is RE 494, Washington County Water Conservancy District. Are there any additional questions or discussion on the item? Seeing none, we'll ask for a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make that motion that the board commits 68.5% of phase 1A up to $66,133,000, and that the bond indebtedness be returned at 0.5% interest over 40 years with annual payments of approximately $1,879,000, including reserves.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Jones. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Van Horn. Thank you. We will proceed to vote. Councilmember Spencer. Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Merkley.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Passes. Next item is RE 500, Smithfield Irrigation Company. Are there any additional questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board commit 30.7% of the project cost, up to $952,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 25 years with annual payments of approximately $38,100.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Buxton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Steed, thank you. Proceed to vote. Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Merkley.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. RM 117, Lehi City. Are there any additional questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board commit 29.75% of the project cost up to $1,690,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $131,000, including reserves.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Van Horn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Proceed to vote. Councilmember Spencer Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Steed.
Aye.
Councilmember Buxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Merkley.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, that concludes board actions. We'll now hear a report from division staff.
I think that went well.
The new format?
Did
Yeah.
it go okay?
I liked it. It was good.
Okay. Took me a second to get in the groove, but I got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Patrick, welcome.
It's great to be here. My name is Patrick Campana. I'm in the Division of Water Resources Design and Construction section. I've worked here about 3 years, but I've yet to have the opportunity to talk at one of these board meetings. So it's great to be here. There we go. Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Great Salt Lake the Great Salt Lake State Park Marina dredging project that happened in 2025. Quick overview of my presentation. I'll get into some background details about the marina and how we paid for the project. Then I'll go into the dredging objectives, and then next cover the construction phase of the project, and finally wrap things up by going over the project outcomes. So the Great Salt Lake Marina has been the primary access point for the public, search and rescue, and law enforcement, many scientists, and some industry use to access the waters of the Great Salt Lake since it opened in 1978. However, and this isn't going to be a surprise to any of you, the Great Salt Lake has been in decline, and because of that, the marina has been having a rough go over the last decade or so. In 2022, it hit the Great Salt Lake hit an all-time low, and the marina was essentially dewatered. They had to pull all the boats out of it, and it was functionally closed. Fortunately, in 2023, we got that amazing snowpack. The lake went up 5.5 feet, and we were able to resume some limited operations at the marina. However, there were legitimate concerns that all it would take is another 1 or 2 bad snow years like what we're having this year, and the marina would be closed due to declining lake levels. So state parks proposed dredging the marina, and fortunately at that time the Division of Water Resources had roughly $4.2 million of ARPA funding that was slated for being used for salinity control projects on the lake and could also be put towards infrastructure that was threatened by the critically low levels of the Great Salt Lake within the lake itself. So the marina fit that bill, and the DNR decided to go ahead and pursue trying to dredge the marina to improve the range of lake elevations that it could be operable over. So Water Resources, Fire Forestry, and State Lands and State Parks got together, and we developed a priority list of areas within the marina that could be dredged and allow it to operate in a minimal function. And the idea being we would dredge those first, and then if there were remaining funds, we would continue to dredge additional boat slips in the marina until we exhausted our funds. So this priority area is shown here. It included the search and rescue boat and fuel docks, 10 boat slips on the A dock, the boat ramp, channels connecting each of those areas, and then going out into the Salt Lake along this, what I'm calling the exit channel here that parallels this Mirabellite reef until it turns to the left towards the main body of the Great Salt Lake at this X. And I call out this X because it's a low point within the Mirabellite reef that really set the elevation to which we could dredge to, the practical limit. So this elevation is 4185, and if the lake gets low enough that we can't get over the reef at that point, then there's no point in being able to have boats in the marina. So that's what we decided to use for the bottom elevation of, the target elevation of our dredging project. So we had an area, we had an elevation. With that, we were able to come up with a volume estimate for the spoils, and then the next step was just figuring out where we put these spoils. And that was really the tricky part of this project. Initially, we wanted to put the spoils in this triangular area here that's kind of center at the bottom of the screen. We were hoping that the Army Corps of Engineers would not view it as a jurisdictional wetland because it's hydrologically disconnected from the surrounding wetlands. However, they didn't view it that way, and they wanted us to do compensatory wetland mitigation, which would have threatened to bankrupt this project really before it even started. So we looked into other locations for the spoils. We had a lot of back and forth with the Corps. And before we knew it, we were facing a deadline with this funding. It needed to be obligated by the end of 2024. And we were no closer to having the permitting issues taken care of, let alone hiring a contractor. So what we ended up doing was partnering with the Division of Facilities, Construction, and Management, DFCM, and we did an interagency transfer where we obligated the funds to them, and then they helped us solicit the project as a design build. And the contractor who was awarded this project would then wrap up the permitting issues and dredge the marina before we ran into the next funding deadline, which was getting the money spent by the end of 2025. So DFCM helped us out, and the contractor that we awarded the project to was Groundwork Hydrovac, and they worked with Bowen Collins, an engineering consultant, and identified that this pre-existing impoundment that was used for marina dredgings back in 2017 would be acceptable to the Army Corps as a place to locate these spoils, but not require compensatory wetland mitigation. So once we had that aspect of the permitting taken care of, we were ready to go to construction. And in August of 2025, they brought out an excavator, chained it to the top of a barge, and began manually dredging the marina. This excavator would deposit the spoils that it dug up into one of these small Poseidon barges, which would then be pushed over towards the boat ramp, unloaded by another excavator into a side dump truck, and then driven out to the spoil site. And this was some really foul, nasty material, so be happy that you weren't there to see this happen. You think the Great Salt Lake stinks sometimes, you would be surprised how bad this stuff is. So Project outcomes, we were able to dredge all of the original priority areas, the fuel dock, search and rescue boat dock, everything that's there. In addition to that, we issued a change order that allowed the contractor to go ahead and dredge 6 more additional boat slips. They widened the jetty at the mouth of the exit of the marina before getting to that exit channel to make it more navigable, and I'll show you a better image of that here in just a second. And then they installed new lights at the exit of the marina and along the buoys marking the exit channel. Oh, and lastly, the marina parking lot got a little bit of a facelift too. So here's the jetty that was widened. They laid back the steep riprap on either side of these slopes and opened it up because people in the past had run their boats aground there and had difficulty navigating it. So when it was all said and done, we removed roughly 30,000 cubic yards of material from the marina, and there was a little over, I think, $100,000 of those ARPA funds that remained unspent. That's all I have for you today. I just want to say on a personal note, this was a cool project to be a part of. I used to sail on the Great Salt Lake with my dad when I was a kid. This is a much younger me at the tiller of our sailboat. And so I just think it's cool that we're doing what we can to try and extend the operational life of this facility as long as we can. Hopefully we can get more water in the lake and keep it going. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Joel, it's your turn.
And I obviously didn't pay close enough attention to the agenda because I already gave my report to you. I'll just take the opportunity to thank the board and staff for, as I sat here observing, I just noticed there's been a lot of changes and improvements to the whole process, to the materials that we have, and I know it's been a lot of work, and I just wanted to extend that appreciation to Water Resources staff for running a good meeting, and to you all for helping us make a difference in the state. So thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is the time frame on a new director?
Great question. So on Tuesday of this week, they interviewed 3 applicants. I think they started with 60, got it down to 16, did another round, got it down to 8, did another round, and it's down to 3. And then those were this week. Next week, Joel Ferry said he might have a decision, and I know he needs to coordinate with the governor as well. So hopefully next week. But
Well, I'd just like to say you've done a great job. Thank you in your interim position. And on the agenda, we have an item, as was Sarah mentioned, for a closed session. We don't have any need for one at this point. And so, is there anything else the board has for today? If not, I'd entertain a final motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.